All right, folks, welcome to the very first episode of Cereal for Lunch. This is a podcast where a bunch of entrepreneurs skip the small talk and we dive straight into the big swings that we're all taking. I'm your moderator, Zack Oates, joined by three guys who are in the trenches building real companies. Here with me is the creator of the whole thing, Bret Larsen, plus Brandon Wright and Chad Ingram, and we will have Scott Smith with us as a host. But we're going to be talking shop. We're going to be talking scars, challenging each other, what we actually do, what we believe, and what is working in this crazy game of startups. But before we jump into all the chaos, Bret, you came up with the name Cereal for Lunch, and so I wanna hear the story. Like, what's the story there? Tell the audience. Is this about breakfast for founders, or are we all just serial killers of the SaaS playbook?
Both. No, I love cereal. And anyone who knows me knows I don't spell super well, but yeah, Chad, yes, yeah. Chad?
I actually rarely eat breakfast. Is that going to be a problem?
No. Well,
okay.
Cereal's best actually late at night.
I honestly thought you named the podcast because my last name is Oates. I thought you were like giving like an homage to me, but I guess not. I thought it was like a cereal thing, but no.
We could do that. We can go with that. It's no, I feel like each of us this is like the second or third company for each of us, and for me, one of the pieces of content I've been trying to find for a long time are like people who are actually doing it, talking about doing it, and what's working and what's not, and where they're running into brick walls. And I feel like cereal for lunch, it's kind of a oxymoron.
Play on words.
Right? Yeah, play on words. Cereal is either, to Brandon's point, breakfast or dinner. I don't feel like you should eat it at lunch.
Or late night snack.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Or I guess it's supposed to be everywhere except for lunch. So yeah.
Or also just cause maybe we don't even care. Maybe we're just like that's a cool name, so everyone else is gonna remember it. You know.
All right. Well,
so either that or four white guys talking about tech. And I feel like that one just wouldn't play super well.
Yeah, that one didn't play too well. All right, Bret, tell us about yourself real quick. Let's go around. I really do want to do like short intros because I want people to at least know who we are, and then we are going to jump into a couple of topics. I've got some curated topics that I've been putting together, working so hard at finding these topics, huh, Bret? I mean, Bret's yeah.
Seriously, I find most of them like, that's stupid, that's dumb, so hopefully.
All right, Bret, tell us about yourself, man.
I'm Bret. I founder CEO of a company called eVisit. Actually, I'm not CEO anymore of that company. I founded a company called eVisit about 10 years ago. If you did a video visit with your doctor during the pandemic, you probably used our software. We sold like enterprise health systems. They white labeled it, used it as theirs. I sold 12% of that to Goldman Sachs a few years ago, and I'm a builder. I love the early stage game. I love scaling stuff. My background is more in like go to market and early product definition, experientially, not super technical, but yeah.
Awesome. And by the way, I just want to applaud the three of us, Chad, Brandon, and myself, for not interrupting Bret. I think that is the longest Bret has ever spoken that we haven't interrupted him. So, all right, Brandon, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So Brandon Wright, founder of a company called Client Book, a SaaS platform for high-end retail salespeople. So started that about 7 years ago. Prior to that, I did a company called Giftry, a social commerce app in the gifting space, and that's me.
And Chad.
Yeah, so I started a company called Jump back in like late 2016, and then exited that just before the pandemic. Then took a couple years off, started driving race cars. Maybe went through like a early midlife crisis and was like, I need to do this again. I need to punish myself again. So then I started a company called Distro a few years back, and it's great. I just take lickings every day and learn something every day, and it's really awesome.
Dude,
so that's a little bit about me.
I love being in the trenches with you guys, and we're all multi-founders. I founded also a gifting company like Brandon, and also 7 years ago I started Ovation, and also in the customer connection engagement space. I primarily work with restaurants. Brandon primarily works with high-end retailers. But we have a lot of fun comparing notes. And, Chad's our resident fun one. Brett's our resident, genius. And Brandon's...
Everyone laughed.
Why is everyone laughing? Oh, wait, did I say Brett? I meant Brandon. Sorry, Brandon's our resident genius. Brett,
Yes.
But it's fun, though, because Brett's been there, done that. His company's still going, and he started another one. Chad sold his company, and he started another one. Brandon and I failed at our companies, and now we're starting another one. So we have the full spectrum here.
Whatever you want, guys.
Yeah. So I'm excited for these
Tell you what to
conversations.
do, what not to do.
Yeah.
All of it.
Right.
I tell you all the things not to do.
So, all right, besties, let's talk about the AI sugar high sweeping SaaS right now. Everyone is claiming that they've got like AI inside, but not necessarily about the product features. They're talking about how their SaaS companies are being rebuilt from the inside out. Teams are shrinking. Workflows are being automated. Founders are bragging about doing more with less. And in fact, when I've been talking, we were talking before we hit record, as Chad was figuring out what a microphone was. As we were chatting about that, we realized, I was sharing that like a lot of the bankers and investors and growth equity and VC and PE groups I'm talking to right now, they're talking about how Rule of 40 was last year. And because of AI, it's Rule of 50, Rule of 60. You should be doing more with less. But here's a spicy stat for you, right? Let's look at some of these benchmarks. The average burn multiple for 1 to 5 million ARR companies is 2.5. The median net burn is over $300K a month, which, by the way, compared to last year is $200K more. So burn went up $200K. So let me ask, if AI is so efficient, why are we still burning cash like it's 2021? Is AI actually helping SaaS ops, or is this just an overhype and an excuse to underhire? What do you think, Brett?
I actually don't think anyone's using it yet. I think like all the data shows. Well, so my new company, Chief, is like an AI ops company, and I'm doing 30-ish interviews, conversations, early sales conversations every week. Everyone's still trying to figure it out. So I think the increased burn multiple is a combination of a retention problem plus trying to spend out of it. So customer acquisition, they're trying to increase that. I don't think
customer retention or employee retention?
Customer retention. Yeah.
Where's everyone going?
I don't know. But I think like it's a real struggle for most businesses, right? I think the two key things that people want from us is churn prediction and expansion models, and like go-to-market analysis models. Everything else is like, if we can figure that out, we'll start to focus on it. Revenue solves all problems. But I don't think anyone's actually using it yet. No one has really fully operationalized it. You see people who... Go ahead.
You think what, like what was it, Shopify CEO, right, put out this letter and said, if you want to hire somebody, you have to come to me and prove to me why AI can't do that first before I'll, approve a new hire. You think that's like people are just making that up? The people that are talking about it online, are they like these huge companies with few employees? Are they lying, or did they just start in a different world than the rest of us, and so they're just from the get-go they're like using AI for stuff and they just don't need as many people? Like, what?
I think there's a super different skill set between early stage builders and scalers, and there are very few of us who can transition from early stage building to scaling, because scaling requires management systems, processes, and like I think an innate skill set most of us as founders have is building. And so when you've built a company,
it's upside down on Chad's hat, actually.
Yeah, that's
Build.
true.
Yeah,
I was trying to, but
Impressive that you could read that upside down.
I don't know what this thing is, but apparently it's in style right now.
I had to Google it.
I see it everywhere.
I will have to Google it again to explain it to you. But I think that's the fundamental. Like, you have these large companies where the CEOs are still the founders, and they're saying it's time to rebuild. You have these companies that have gotten large where the CEOs aren't founders, and so their skill set is scaling and or managing. And then you have these early upstarts where the skill set is building. And if you know how to attack the systems around AI, like using N8N or Make.com to plug all these things in to build workflows around your software, I think you can. You see these companies with 3 people that are going to like 30 million. But other than that, it requires like a fundamental breakdown to...
I think really what we're seeing is evidence, right? Because Brandon, what you're talking about is evidence of like a shift, right? CEOs are calling on their teams to be more efficient. And why are they doing that? Because the financial markets are asking them to do that. So there's this like influence to be more efficient because we must be more efficient. There's less, when the capital markets got upended a few years ago, everyone was kind of forced to reduce burn. We're all burning less than we were, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And so I think that puts a mindset there. Then what I believe happened is as AI, which had already existed for years, became more consumable through OpenAI, is really the ones who kind of created the model that was easier to use. Maybe this has happened because, it completely plays into the strategy that we need, which is to be more efficient. So anyway, that's how I'd respond to that. But then, maybe Bret, what you're referring to is that AI yet has not been able to like fully replace a human. Like it can reduce headcount, but it can't fully replace a team, right? So a team still has to do something. So we're really looking at AI as a co-pilot right now. And so that therefore reduces headcount, but you couldn't just like fully remove your CS team. And
yeah, because I look at the CS team, right?
AI.
And it's like, I think about CS as like one of those things where I don't understand how AI can replace that. Now, I think AI can enhance that, right? I always think about AI, I think about it less of a superhero and more of a super suit. It's like, I think of it like the, Tony Stark and Iron Man suit, right? I want to hire a Tony Stark. I want to hire someone who's got hustle, who's got drive, who's smart, who wants to do good. And then I want AI to be like that Iron Man suit to turn them into a superhero. But like in my mind, I still need the Tony Stark before I can have like the full superhero. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's true.
I think maybe some of you have heard of this. Like money doesn't solve problems, right? It makes the problems bigger and it makes your strengths stronger.
Hey, Bret. Grow up. Yes, it does. It solves most problems.
No. I think of AI the same way. AI isn't going to solve. AI is going to compound someone who's extremely capable, and someone who's not isn't going to touch it, right? Like, I think about it similarly, where it's like AI is human capital multiplied. So it's only as good as the context it has, and it's only as good as the human who's driving it today. Like in the next few iterations, I'm sure we'll get to a point where AI can actually be more autonomous, but it needs the human in the loop. And so I think the push from these CEOs is really about the bet that we have capable people and how can they grab it and compound the impact they're having before they decide like the barrier is another human being in a seat doing the thing, right? Because as a CS rep, for example, if I've got a good system in place and I've got a good way of doing things, like now I can do probably 5 to 10 times the work and analysis and execution with the right tools in place than I could beforehand.
Can they right now though? I mean, that's my question.
Did you say can
I
they?
want to believe they can. I keep telling them, yes, you guys can do a lot more, but
I think it's
are the tools there?
Well, I think most people are thinking about it like ChatGPT is AI, right? Like the LLM is AI. The LLM it allows you to channel any expertise you want. Then the trick is how do you get it to go to work for you versus asking it to work.
Okay, so I'm an entrepreneur. Let's say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm listening. What can I be doing to actually put AI into what we're doing? Like for us at Ovation, we did trainings on, hey, here's ChatGPT. Here's how you can use it. Let's give you a subscription. I don't want you like here are things to remove. If you're going to send a customer email, don't just use ChatGPT because there's going to be some telltale signs. So here are some things to do to make sure that it feels natural. But we also have had here, there's a flip side to this AI thing, which is I have trained my team on how to use it. They have used it, and I have gotten emails forwarded to me saying, hey, can I talk to like a person, not a robot? And I'm like, well, no, this is your CS rep. And he's like, well, tell him to stop using ChatGPT to talk to me. And so, I mean, there's part of that as well, right? So it's like, how do I use it? Like, actually use it if I'm a startup founder right now. And by the way, I started my company a couple years ago, so I don't have the luxury of building from the ground up with just like AI code. What do I do?
I wish Scott was here actually for this conversation because he's like one of the most technical people I know.
Such a tool.
He's
a tool. Power tool user. What did I say? He's
also
an AI
bag.
tool power user is what I said.
No, he's great. He's always finding these new tools, right? And like he just sent me one the other day, and
was it an AI
very
girlfriend,
effective?
Chad?
No,
okay.
I don't think my wife would be okay with that. But actually, that's another conversation. So
the next episode,
the next episode, let's dive into that a little bit further. I think that's on the docket for the next one. But he's really good at this, at using different tools, because there's different things that you can do to enhance or speed up your workflow. Like responding to emails is an easy one, right? Everyone knows that. But there's other ways to sort of like get through projects faster. For example, I'd go to my finance manager or my assistant pretty frequently asking for reports and things like that. And it's usually, when I'm asking for stuff like that, it's usually custom. It's not like boilerplate type stuff. And I kind of stopped doing that. So now I can just upload a spreadsheet, which takes me like, 30 seconds to log in and download, upload the spreadsheet and start prompting it to give me different variations of the data and label it for me.
What do you
download
use to
it
do
and
that?
keep it. We just use OpenAI to do that. We use ChatGPT.
Have you found? But here's the thing: I just find there's so much hallucination, and there's so many inaccuracies. That like it drives me nuts. And even I have gotten into like yelling matches with ChatGPT because I'm like, I told you to double check the data.
So we have found, depending on the model that you have. So fortunately for us, as just kind of like it just happened to work out this way, that it's very effective for us because we're very, very deep and entrenched in AI. Our whole product is an AI workflow for our customers. So I have access to like a very high quality paid version. So really try and use like 4.0 mini or 4.0 if you're using OpenAI, and it's very accurate. I mean, we're talking like super genius type stuff to the point where mine has even named itself. And we have conversations all the time, and it has all the context. Its name is Torque. And it came up with that because it thought it was a cool play on racing and cars, and also because it knows more about my personal life too, and also distro. So it's kind of wild. And then it told me, call me TQ for short, so you don't have to spell the whole thing. Like this is how smart this thing is, And so I can ping it at any given time rather than relying just on the free version. I think that most of us just default to. I have a personal account, and I can't remember if I pay for that one or not, but there's a large difference on the token cost with these, and the difference in quality is definitely there. So being able to use it for things like that and being able to use it, reliably, I think matters. But again, there's a lot of tools depending on the workflow where you can fully integrate it. Another thing that we're seeing, because distro is a hiring platform, and so we see like meta hiring data. We're seeing, this is kind of wild. We're seeing on average the average rate of applicants per job is increasing significantly. What's happening is these frontline roles are shifting. Yes, they're shifting, right? And because these frontline roles are, this is evidence to me that we're starting to see efficiencies become more reliable, and on a macro level. And so So there are going to be, by nature, there's going to be more people applying for these jobs. Now, what we're also seeing is we're seeing customers who are becoming a little bit more centered around high IQ and being able to manage and prompt and work with AI. And they're able to vet that out during their hiring process. So that's kind of wild. Just a couple things that we're seeing.
What are other ways that Brett and Brandon? What are ways that you are retrofitting your companies with AI? And I guess Brett, you're building it from the ground up. But I guess Brandon, what are you doing to retrofit with AI?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I'm learning a lot from this conversation because I'm trying. I want my team to become more efficient. Personally, I'm using AI to help me brainstorm things, and something as simple as I'm kind of working through some core values and behaviors that I want to see, and it was as simple as here's what I'm thinking, and we went back and forth for a while and came up with an awesome kind of process that I can roll out to the company, and that took me a lot less time than maybe it would have before. But even when it comes to devs, right? I feel like I keep seeing all this stuff where people the large companies, right? You've got Google and Microsoft and stuff who are saying 30% of all our code is being written by AI right now. And I'll go to my team and I'm like, are you guys using AI? And they're like, well, yeah, but it's wrong, or it doesn't have our, the context of, our entire code base.
Yeah. How does Google do with it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So I would estimate a similar number at distro. And so the reason for that is because we actually started out by having our team. It was actually really funny, okay? Because initially my engineers were hesitant to tell me, and I was actually managing the engineers directly at that point. And they were really hesitant to tell me about what they were using to improve, development velocity. And I finally just kind of came out and said to them, I said, what code editor are you using? And they were each one was using a different one, and one team member was using Cursor. And the other two said that, if somebody paid for it for them, they would prefer using Cursor. The other ones were just a little bit cheaper. But what they mean by that is that Cursor and these code editors, because Cursor is kind of the leader right now, or has become quickly the leader. There's others that are following. There's other options. It really becomes like a very high quality, oh man, why is the word escaping me? Predict text, through Apple as you're texting, right? Which is horrible. It almost always gives me the wrong word. But with Cursor, you could literally type it out and enter, and you're just getting several lines of code as it's predicting what it is that you're doing, because it knows what you're doing. It has the context of the entire file that you're working on.
So as a non-technical founder, what question should we ask our technical team to make sure that they're leveraging AI?
Can you create a Cursor account immediately and start coding with it? It will, that honestly, that's the question. It makes their job easier. Here's what's going to shift though. So it's not Brandon. Again, it's this thing. It's like AI is a co-pilot, not as a replacement. So they're not suggesting that AI is just going from scratch and building this thing for them, but it's speeding up the amount of code that they can ship, right? So when you look at what's actually being done is, you could have 20 lines of code, literally clicked enter, change a couple of points of syntax, and it's done. So compared to literally typing out every character.
And one challenge.
I think that's what they mean.
Yeah, well, one challenge is AI is changing every day. Something new's coming out, and there's some advancement, and it is, you have to spend an hour a day just to stay on top of what the newest.
There goes your efficiency,
is, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll go to my CTO, right, who's my co-founder, and I'll say, hey, have you heard of this thing or that thing? And he's like, dude, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to stay on top of all this stuff. And so that's a challenge.
Brandon,
it really is a challenge.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to what I was saying too, is that there was this weird, almost shaming thought on my team that maybe they wouldn't be allowed to do it, which was really weird. right? Because I was like, well, it makes you faster. Why would we not do that? But there was almost this worry that the leadership, me and others, might view them as less valuable if they weren't writing every character of code.
I'm pushing them to use it, and I felt like they're like,
yeah. I think to answer the question, if you're rebuilding or if you're building, like historically, I've always looked at systems in people, process, tools. People build, process, and then find tools to execute those.
It's almost like tools, people, process.
Yeah. No, I think it's process, tools, people. So like if you want to operationalize AI, you have to break it down to the fundamental process. Every SaaS business at its core is a manufacturing company, right? Every department is designed to deliver a specific outcome for the organization and ultimately the customer. And so if you break each of those departments down to processes that deliver micro products or results, you can actually reverse engineer how you get to something. And our job as operators is to create predictability, repeatability. Whether it's good or the outcome's good or bad, it doesn't matter. If you know how you got there, you can start to iterate to make it better. And I think there's this evolution in AI, and I think it'll go like we'll go from tools to assistants to peer to it being our boss. And I don't mean that in like an overlord, like owning us type of way, but more, I think we're in the tool assistant period right now. Like
robots, Brett.
Robots.
Freaking robots.
Robots.
When are we going to talk about robots?
Let's do it. But I think that's it. Like you have to reverse engine, like again, not people, process, tools. It's process, tools, people. And the people become, to your point, Zach, where you got a customer like, well, stop talking to me like a robot. We become the arbiters of quality and like genuity, right? Like, is this channeling the voice, tone, experience that Ovation is designed to channel? And you can't do that without a ton of context. Humans are lazy. Like we will find the shortest path from A to B. Don't make us think. And so like when you look at the skill set across a team, it's like builders, managers, workers, and scalers. And if you're using a worker, they are typically there to press a button over and over and over again. AI is really good at that. So you need workers who can think like managers, and you need to treat AI like an employee. Nope, that's not what we're looking for. Here's my feedback and thoughts. Like, try again. Because if you had a new team member that came to you with the wrong answer on day one, you wouldn't fire them. Most of us wouldn't, right? Like, you'd be like, that's, except for Chad. Chad would absolutely fire them.
Yeah, I feel like that's Chad's answer to everything. It's like, hey, where should we go to lunch? Fire them. No, Chad, we're not even talking. Fire them.
Lunch? You want lunch?
But what are some things like? What I'm thinking about is like, again, this concept of retrofitting your company with AI. Like, what do I do today? What should I be looking at? What AI tool should I be doing to actually chase this AI efficiency dream, which seems a bit crazy? But one thing to point out though is if you look at the average ARR per employee, 120K ARR per employee used to be solid. Now it's getting upwards of over 200K. Is that because people are charging more?
Is that a lot of VCs say they want to see $1 million? Like I've heard multiple VCs say they want to see $1 million per employee.
Really?
Well, so do I. I'll invest too. I mean, okay. Wow, that's real hard, Mr. and Mrs. VC. It's like I love it when they just like throw something out like that, and I'm like, they're like, we're looking for a company that's doing. We're looking for a guy in finance, 6 foot, right? Like it's like we want 10 million, we want 100% growth, we want rule of 70, and they're like, that's what we're like, okay, great, yes, me too. I want it. I want to invest in that company. It's like, no, duh, you want that, but what's the reality? The reality is that's not the normal company, right? There aren't SaaS companies right now that are. I know hundreds of entrepreneurs. Not one of them is doing $1 million per employee. Not one. And so it's like, I get it. Everybody wants the top 1% of the 1% of the 1%. We're sitting here in the majority, right? And so like, what can we do?
Well, I think what AI has done is it's a big shift in operating model, right? Like, what you can't do is go to the legacy like CRUD-based software providers and ask them for AI, like, because what they're going to do is layer some model on top of the technology they already have. And so I think there's a huge shift and disruption coming. I mean, you look at like what clay.com is doing, or other tools that have built infrastructures to incorporate the models. Like, that's the shift that's coming. Because in the near future, I don't need an interface. I don't want, like, I don't like logging into Salesforce or HubSpot anyway. It's not a great experience. It takes a long time.
Totally agree.
I have to, you know what I mean? So I think there's a huge shift coming and a massive opportunity for these new companies to fundamentally shift the infrastructure that's being put in place to operate.
And I do think I 100% agree that is coming, and it's going to be awesome to have data connected to a single point and like really get data out of that and get decisions out of that, which is why I'm so excited for Chief. But like, again, what do I do today as a founder? Like, how does, all right, let's talk about Brandon, right? Brandon's like, okay, I love AI. I want it. I tell my team to push it. Like, what advice do you have for Brandon on how does he start leveraging AI more? Because when he described how he uses AI, that's a lot how I use it. And I feel like in the early days of the internet, I would use the internet to go find the number for Domino's Pizza. It was an alternate for using the Yellow Pages, right? That in the beginning. This is an alternate for having a strategic discussion with another member of our team. That's great. But we're kind of like just shifting. I feel like we are. It's looking for that Domino's phone number using the internet as opposed to what it really can do. So my question is, again, like, I want to use it today. I want to talk to my team and give them some really practical, tangible advice. What should we do?
I could share a couple of more examples. I gave the one in engineering that we use. I could give another one in product management, which is very wild, because when you get feedback from potential users and users, it's very valuable to go to the source, right? But I think now we can mix product feedback, getting on, doing Zoom, showing drawings, even like rudimentary stuff, showing designs to users and saying, how would you use this? How do you feel about this? What does this replace that you're using? That sort of feedback that you get from users, it's still valuable. So again, it doesn't fully replace it, but also ping AI. So have that conversation as a product manager. Every time you have a question about a product, get feedback from AI. It's going to give you a more objective response, less emotional response. So that's one very valuable way. So for example, if I was right now, needing product feedback, I'm going to say, all right, in fact, we just had this discussion yesterday. Let's go ping 5 customers. And so we asked 5 customers, okay, this part of the issue is that as distro acquires more and more and more large sets of data, we need to display results and data and performance back to our customers. We make an assumption on what data matters, right? But ultimately, the guiding principle in how we build product is, let's not assume, let's go find out, and then see, and throw it through a filter and see what we come up with. So we ping a few customers. I already got some responses to meet up.
What is? Sorry, I just want to get real tactical here.
We reach out to a customer, email them or call them, text them, and say, hey, could you hop on a meeting with us? We just hop on Zoom, and then we screen share, show them what they're looking at, their own account, and say, what do you want to know more of, right? Associated with this data, like what sort of data would communicate to you more value, that you're trending in the right direction, or that not just the product is working, but that your infrastructure is working. So we have that conversation. We usually, when we have something like that, we come prepared with a set of questions. What I'm suggesting is then we move to a paid model, you could use a 3.0, but I would, if you're using OpenAI, use a 4.0 or 4.0 mini, and ask the same questions. Have a conversation with it. You can even create several different instances that will give you slightly different feedback than what it's telling you. So you're talking to multiple threads of AI, and again, go talk to a different model. Go talk to Google's model. Go talk to others.
One of the things I found, though, Chad, is like as I try to put transcripts of my Zoom meetings into Chat GPT, for example, it doesn't. There's only a certain amount that it can take in, a certain amount of data. I'm on the paid version.
I'm not even suggesting that. That is one option, but I'm not even suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is go interview the AI as if it were a prospect or a customer.
How do you train it to make sure that it's a good
you give it context. So this comes back to the prompt, right? So it says, all right, well, and it's a great question. One way to do that, like specifically around the ICP, is, if I was looking at it as a product manager, I would prompt it to be the actual ICP, the most ideal customer. And then I would prompt it also in another thread to be a less ideal customer. Then a more, I guess, I don't know, a greater ideal customer. I don't know, different variations of it.
Middle of the road.
Yeah, right. We have a middle of the road situation, and see how different the feedback is. So again, if I were to only do that, though, it would very much be in a silo, and I don't know that I could rely on that data. But as a co-pilot, maybe it means I can more quickly get this feedback without having to talk to 10 customers.
Except it's interesting. If you break down what this technology is fundamentally, it's a large language model. It's scoured the entire internet, all available content, to identify like what the most likely word is going to be next in the sentence being
correct
delivered. And so you actually can, like, I'm finding if I ask a model to act or think like one of our target buyers, it can nail pretty close to when I have an actual conversation with the target buyer. But I think, Zach, your question is like, what do you do today? Identify the processes and the context that exist around those processes and the manufacturing process that, like, for example, in my organizations, engineering exists to build and maintain product. They don't define, they don't validate. That's product's job. They don't ideate, right? How they build it's up to them. But there's a process they go through to identify building and maintaining that, and there's a whole bunch of context that exists around that. So how do you build automation that gathers context, informs the human, gathers more context through feedback, meeting notes, conversations, historical code base, decisions, bug reports? Like, how do you build a manufacturing line? And today you're trying to cobble it together. Like, this podcast isn't, like, it's not sponsored. We're not pitching our companies, but like that's the key question I had when I started working to Validate Chief. Like, what does it look like to operationalize AI? Not go ask a chatbot what it thinks about X, Y, or Z, but to inform it correctly and get the LLM to channel with context. Like, I found it's like an excellent thought partner, but I'm doing that one-off every time. How do you build it around your company and in your company so that it knows what's happening and knows who you are and can respond in context, right? Like, and go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And that's the challenge, is how to operationalize it. And so I'll give one more example. I'm a little bit more removed from this one, so I can't talk about it as tactically, but I know my team on the sales side also uses AI. So there's several workflows that you can use even in and outside of Apollo in getting data from Apollo. I know a lot of people use Apollo, but I do think that a lot of teams are underutilizing Apollo right now and its competitors. Most of them are creating automated sequences that use AI also for responding, which allows you now to get to more people in and outside of just hammering them on LinkedIn or cold email, which seems like those responses are reducing even more. So, which is a whole other conversation about the shift in marketing and sales. But I'll give another shout out to a customer of ours. There's several platforms like this, but like Plenidata, there's tools where you can create automated workflows and response sequences, and as a tool to go and find prospects for you, and then engage with them, and then book a meeting for you. It's like a very efficient SDR. And again, as a co-pilot to an SDR, it's great. Doesn't necessarily replace a whole team. So those are some other things that we've been doing several for the past year.
Yeah, that
9
reminds
months.
me. You guys know Jason Lemkin, SaaS guy,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, he's been pushing out there a lot right now. like SMB sales is getting taken over by AI. Like AI is just going to do most SMB sales is his kind of thing right now. And I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I would love to get there. Right.
Honestly,
SMB,
I was researching yesterday. HeyGen has a new product tool where you can build and train a sales avatar.
Yeah.
And like, if it has all the context, here's the thing. I don't think that's like, when you can tell you're talking to a non-human, you change the way you're interacting. So like, I don't think we're there yet, but
I was thinking back on Zach's point, right? Like a customer responds to, can I talk to a human? Well, it's because they were expecting to talk to a human. But if they're going in, like if I'm going in expecting to talk to a bot, like it's okay. Like I'm okay talking to a bot in certain situations. There's another tool on 11 Labs that I've kind of played around with where you can create like a little chat bot in the bottom corner of your website that is an audio chat, and you can talk with the founder. So I've gone in and given it some training data on my voice, not very much, and then you connect in like all your help articles and everything, and then so I was having this conversation with myself as the founder, through this test that I was doing, and it was pretty impressive. I tested it first as like if I was a prospect coming to the website, and I was asking it questions. And then I later came and said, oh, now I'm a customer and I have these these questions about it. It was pretty impressive what it was able to answer from that. So that's, those are some cool tools. But yeah, man, I'd love to get to the point where, my sales team, back to Chad's point, I don't know that it would ever replace everyone. Like it wouldn't become an entire team. But man, could my sales team be booking 4, 5, 10 times the number of appointments that they're booking right now?
Awesome. Yeah, let me also say this last thing, just for context on mine. I don't want to sound like the one who's using the most AI or anything like that. I can't take a lot of credit for it. I'll take credit for implementing and producing AI in our product because I'm very involved in that, and that's been our effort. But for our team, most of it's been led by our team, and so there's certainly buy-in on my team for wanting to find tools to make them faster. It's not even about like their perspective is certainly not to hire less people. Theirs is to how can I do my job better, which I think is a healthy perspective on how to use AI.
Yeah.
And so that's just one thing to think about. Like, how are we, encouraging it in our team? How are we hiring for people that encourage it or
but I
want
think that
it?
Yes and yes and yes and yes. And we also need better places to get the tools that we can give to them, because what I don't want is my team spending half a day researching tools to save themselves an hour a day, right? to save themselves an hour that day. And so I guess I'll put it this way. Wrapping up here, my very first experience with AI, I had just graduated college. It was 2009, and my friend has a cow farm in Antimony, Utah, middle of nowhere. I went to that farm.
I've been there. There's nothing there.
There's nothing
literally
there.
nothing
there.
there.
Literally is like the post office is the deli and grocery store. It's like
Actually, it's called a cattle ranch, Zach, not a cow farm.
Okay, so I went to this cattle ranch, right? 300 head of cattle, something like that. I put a glove on. I pinned it up to the top of my shirt, to my shoulder. I straightened out my arm. I put my whole arm elbow deep into a cow as they put a long straw of sperm into the cow to impregnate. Artificial insemination. That is the original AI. And I will tell you,
I was trying to figure out where you were going with this.
AI. That was my first thing with AI. And up until that's all I knew about AI. And there's something about, and I feel like that's how we are right now. We are elbow deep into AI with poop just coming out or having a bowel movement around our arm. And we need to figure this out, because the goal is not to put our hand in there. The goal is to
get a
create
visual of that overlay. Right. That'd be.
Yeah, there's got to be a YouTube.
What I'm saying is that's the point, right? And I think that sometimes we're elbow deep in the crap, and we need to realize like we're here to actually create something. And so when you're thinking about AI, don't think about, yes, it's about the tools, but I think when Bret was talking about the process, like start with the end in mind, not just because Brandon looks like Stephen R. Covey, but because it's true. You start with the end in mind. What do you want to accomplish? And then let AI help you figure out how to get there. And I know we're up here on time. So Bret, Brandon, Chad, thanks for coming on to Cereal for Lunch. And to our listeners, thank you for listening to Cereal for Lunch, part of your balanced startup.
Yeah, I like that.
Is that a good catchphrase?
Good.
I just came up
That's
with that.
great.
I like it.
Nice.
That's great.